Have you ever driven past something that made you look twice, but by the time you turned your head, it was already gone? My name is Rachel Dunbar. I've been a highway patrol officer on the Trans-Canada Highway for 9 years now. I cover the stretch between Revelstoke and Golden in British Columbia. It's a beautiful drive most days. Mountains on both sides, rivers cutting through valleys, eagles circling overhead. People think my job is simple: pull over speeders, help stranded motorists, keep the highway safe. But that's not the whole truth. There are things out here that don't make it into my official reports. Things that happen in the dark hours between midnight and dawn. If you stay until the end, I'll tell you the rules. The ones that keep me alive. The ones that might save your life if you ever find yourself driving this stretch of highway late at night. Because once you know what to look for, you can't unknow it. I grew up in Revelstoke. My father was a truck driver. My mother worked at the visitor center. I learned to drive on these mountain roads when I was 15. After high school, I joined the RCMP. I did my training in Regina, came back home and requested highway patrol. I wanted to protect the road I'd grown up on. My first 5 years were normal. I wrote speeding tickets, helped people change tires, responding to accidents. I knew every turnout and rest stop between here and the Alberta border. I was good at my job. My supervisor said I had a natural instinct for reading the road. But instinct only helps when you're dealing with normal problems. What I'm about to tell you isn't normal. Most of my shifts are quiet, especially the overnight ones. Trans-Canada sees less traffic after 10 p.m. Just long-haul truckers and the occasional traveler. During winter, I might go hours without seeing another vehicle. It's peaceful. Just me and my patrol car and the empty highway stretching ahead. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. I'm not making things up. I've seen plenty of real emergencies, pulled people from burning vehicles, performed CPR on the roadside. I know the difference between fear and panic and genuine danger. I know how to stay calm when things go wrong. That credibility matters. Because what I'm going to share sounds impossible. But I need you to know that I'm trained to observe, to document. Everything I'm going to tell you actually happened. My patrol car is standard RCMP, white with yellow and blue markings, light bar on top. Dash cam is always recording, to keep it clean, organized. In the trunk I carry emergency supplies, flares, first aid kit, blankets, everything I might need to help someone in trouble. The Highway Patrol office is in Revelstoke, small building attached to the main RCMP detachment. We keep detailed logs of every shift, every call, every incident. Those logs go back decades. I used to read through the old ones during slow nights. I like understanding patterns. Looking back, I realized there were patterns I missed. Strange calls that got dismissed. Reports that mentioned things that didn't quite make sense. But I was focused on the practical side. I wasn't looking for anomalies. That was my first mistake. The first time I heard about the red lights was during a shift change. I was coming on duty for a midnight shift. Late November. Snow had started falling. I was checking my equipment when Tom Brewster came in. He was 52. Been on highway patrol for 20 years. Calm. Methodical. Not the type to exaggerate. He poured coffee and sat down. He looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes. Hands shaking slightly. "Hey Tom," I said. "Rough shift." He stared at his coffee. Then I looked up. "Rachel, have you ever seen anything weird out there? Anything that didn't make sense?" I thought about it. Weird how? I mean really weird. Things that shouldn't be there. Something in his voice made me stop. "Tom, what happened?" He leaned forward, voice dropping. "You know the stretch between Rogers Pass and the border? Of course. Have you ever noticed the red lights? What red lights? Traffic lights. Red lights. Standing by the roadside where no lights should be. I frowned. There aren't any traffic lights on that stretch. Maybe brake lights. Brake lights don't stand perfectly still. They don't appear in the same spot every night. And they don't have figures standing underneath them. My skin prickled. Figures. Standing on the shoulder. Just standing there. Middle of nowhere. 3 in the morning. In the snow. He looked at me. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what's normal. Those red lights aren't normal. Did you stop to check? His expression changed. Fear. I almost did. The first time I saw one, I slowed down. But something stopped me. Some instinct says don't stop, keep driving. So I didn't. Maybe they needed help. That's what I thought. I felt guilty. So next time I decided to stop. I was about 100 meters away. I had my foot on the brake. He paused. Then the light moved. Moved how? Toward me. Fast. Faster than any person could run. Closed half the distance in 3 seconds. That's when I saw what was underneath it. I waited. It wasn't human, Tom said quietly. The proportions were wrong. The way it moved was wrong. I hit the gas. Didn't stop until I was back here. Tom, I'm putting in for a transfer. Daytime work. I can't do nights anymore. He stood. Grabbed his jacket. If you ever see a red light where no light should be, don't stop. Don't slow down. Just keep driving. Promise me. Then he left. I sat there staring at my coffee. Tom wasn't the type to make things up. If he said he saw something, he saw something. I tried to focus on prep. But my mind kept going back to his words. Red lights where no lights should be. Figures that moved too fast. Sounded impossible. But as I drove out that night toward my route, I couldn't shake the feeling Tom had been telling the truth. That somewhere in the darkness, something was waiting. Something that used red lights as bait. The snow was falling harder. My wipers swept it away. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty. And somewhere out there, maybe a red light was glowing. Waiting. My first 3 weeks after Tom's warning were normal. No red lights. No strange figures. Just regular patrol work. I started to think maybe Tom had been seeing things. Stress. Fatigue. Long hours on dark roads can play tricks on your mind. Then I saw it. It was a Tuesday night in early December. Just past midnight. I was driving eastbound near the Glacier National Park boundary. Heavy snow. Visibility maybe 50 meters. The kind of night where you drive slow and watch for wildlife. Elk like to cross the highway in weather like this. I came around a curve. And there it was. A red light. Standing on the right shoulder. Tall. Bright. Exactly like a traffic signal. But there was no intersection here. No reason for any light. Just highway and forest and mountains. My foot moved toward the brake. Instinct. When you see a red light, you stop. That's what we're trained to do. That's what every driver learns. But I remembered Tom's words. Don't stop. Don't slow down. I kept my speed steady. Fought the urge to brake. As I got closer, I could see it more clearly. It was a red light. Round. Glowing. Suspended about 3 meters off the ground. Like it was hanging from nothing. And underneath it, barely visible in the snow, was a shape. A figure. Standing perfectly still. I drove past. Didn't slow down. Didn't look too long. But in that brief moment I saw enough. The figure was tall. Too tall. And it was facing the highway. Facing the traffic. Waiting. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I checked my rearview mirror. The red light was still there. Getting smaller in the distance. Then the snow got thicker and it disappeared. I drove for another 10 minutes before I pulled over. Grabbed my radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need to report something. Go ahead, Unit 12. I hesitated. What was I supposed to say? I saw a mysterious red light? I saw something that shouldn't exist? I noticed what appears to be an unauthorized light installation on the highway. Eastbound near kilometer marker 223. Could be a hazard. Someone might have put up some kind of signal. Copy that. Do you need to investigate? Everything in me screamed no. Negative. Weather conditions are poor. I'll file a report for the day shift to check. Understood. Stay safe out there. I put down the radio. My heart was pounding. I'd lied in my report. It wasn't an unauthorized installation. It was something else. Something that didn't belong. I continued my patrol. Eyes scanning the roadside, waiting to see if another light would appear. But the rest of the night was normal. Just snow and darkness and the occasional transport truck heading west. When I got back to the detachment at 8 a.m., I went straight to the old logbooks. I started searching, looking for any mention of red lights, strange signals, unusual reports from that area. I found 3 entries, all from different years, all dismissed. The first was from 2015. The officer reported seeing unexplained red illumination near kilometer marker 223. Returned during daylight to investigate. Found nothing. Concluded it was a reflection from a passing vehicle. The second was from 2018. The trucker called in reporting strange traffic light in the middle of nowhere. Officer dispatched to location. No traffic light was found. Caller refused to make an official statement. The third was from 2021. The officer noted possible vehicle with red emergency lights parked on shoulder near the same location. When he returned to check, no vehicle was present. No tire tracks. No evidence anyone had been there. 3 reports. Same location. Same red light. All dismissed as mistakes or misunderstandings. But I knew what I'd seen. And I knew Tom hadn't been imagining things. I spent the day researching, looking through accident reports, missing persons cases, anything that might connect to that stretch of highway. I found something that made my blood run cold. Over the past 15 years, 17 vehicles had been found abandoned on that section of highway. No signs of mechanical failure. No evidence of accidents. Just empty cars. Doors open. Engines still running. Personal belongings left behind. And no trace of the drivers. 17 people. Gone. The official explanation was always the same. Disoriented drivers who wandered into the wilderness. Hypothermia. Wildlife. The harsh mountain environment. Bodies never recovered because the terrain was too rugged. The forest is too dense. But what if that wasn't the real explanation? What if those drivers had seen the red light? What if they'd stopped? I tried to sleep that afternoon but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure standing under the red light. Tall. Still. Waiting. That night I went back to work. Same shift. Same route. I told myself I'd drive past kilometer marker 223, and the light wouldn't be there. It had been a one-time thing. A fluke. Maybe even a hallucination brought on by Tom's story. But as I approached the area, I saw it again. Red light. Right shoulder. Same spot as before. This time I was ready. I grabbed my dash cam control. Made sure it was recording. Kept my speed steady. As I got closer, I could see the figure more clearly. It was wearing what looked like a uniform. Dark color. Could have been a police or security uniform. But something was wrong with the proportions. The arms were too long. The body too thin. and the way it stood was wrong. Too straight, too rigid, like it wasn't quite sure how humans were supposed to stand. I drove past, didn't slow down. I watched it in my mirror until the snow hit it. When I got back to the detachment, I immediately checked my dash cam footage. Rewound to the moment I'd passed the light. Played it back. The red light was there on the recording. Clear as day. A perfect red circle hanging in the air. But the figure underneath it was blurred. Like the camera couldn't quite focus on it. Every time I tried to pause the video to get a clear look, the image became distorted, static, like something was interfering with the recording. I tried enhancing the image, adjusting the contrast. Nothing worked. The light was clear, but whatever was standing under it didn't want to be seen, or couldn't be seen, like it existed just slightly outside what cameras could capture. I was watching the footage for the 5th time when another officer came in. Sarachan. She'd been on highway patrol for 7 years. Good officer. Smart. Observant. Hey Rachel. You okay? You look stressed. I considered lying, but I needed to know if anyone else had seen what I'd seen. Sarah, have you ever noticed anything weird on the Rogers Pass stretch? Anything that didn't add up? She poured herself coffee. Sat down. Weird how? Lights. Signals. Things that shouldn't be there. Her expression changed. You saw one. My heart jumped. One what? The red lights. Tom warned you, didn't he? Before he transferred. You know about them? She nodded slowly. Everyone who works nights knows. We just don't talk about it. The ones who've been here longest know the rules. The unwritten ones. The ones that keep you safe. What rules? Sarah looked around. Made sure we were alone. There are 4 of them. Tom probably told you the first one. Never stop for the red lights. No matter what. Even if it looks like someone needs help. Especially if it looks like someone needs help. What are the other rules? Rule 2. Never make eye contact with whatever is standing under the light. Don't look directly at it. Don't try to see it clearly. The more you focus on it, the more it can focus on you. My skin crawled. And the 3rd rule? If you see the same red light twice in one shift, leave the area immediately. Call for another unit to cover. Don't pass it a 3rd time. 3 times is when it stops waiting. 3 times is when it comes after you. I thought about the night before. I'd seen it once. Tonight I'd seen it again. That was twice. What happens if you pass it a 3rd time? Sarah's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I don't know. No one who's passed it 3 times has ever made it back to file a report. And the 4th rule? If your car breaks down near a red light, do not get out of the vehicle. Do not attempt repairs. Call for immediate backup. Stay in your car with the doors locked. And whatever you do, don't look in your mirrors. Because once you're stopped, it doesn't stay on the shoulder anymore. It comes to investigate. And you don't want to see it approaching in your rearview mirror. We sat in silence. Outside, dawn was breaking. The mountains were turning pink in the early light. Everything looked normal, peaceful, beautiful. But now I know the truth. Something was out there on the highway. Something that mimicked our signals, our lights, our uniforms. Something that waited for people to stop. And when they did, they disappeared. How long has this been happening? I asked. Sarah shrugged. As long as anyone can remember. Some of the older officers say it's been there since the highway was built. Maybe longer. Maybe it was here first and we built the highway through its territory. Why doesn't anyone report it officially? Who would believe us? We'd sound crazy. And besides, what would they do? Close the highway? Investigate? They'd find nothing. Whatever it is, it's smart. It knows how to avoid detection. It only shows itself to people driving alone at night. And it knows we have dash cams now. I know we have technology, so it's learned how to avoid being recorded clearly. But people are disappearing. 17 in the last 15 years. I know. And that's the real horror of it. We know something is taking them, but we can't prove it. Can't stop it. All we can do is follow the rules, warn the new officers, and hope no one makes a mistake. I thought about the 17 empty vehicles, about the families who never got answers, about the drivers who'd seen a red light and done what every instinct told them to do. They'd stop to help, or investigate, or just because red means stop. And now they are gone. Has anyone ever tried to confront it? I asked. Set a trap? Figure out what it is. Sarah's expression darkened. 6 years ago, an officer named David Kwan decided to do exactly that. He was convinced he could capture evidence, prove what it was. He set up extra cameras, got permission to work a special overnight operation, planned to approach one of the lights and document everything. What happened? We found his patrol car the next morning, parked on the shoulder near kilometer marker 223. Engine running, lights on, the door opened, dash cam was still recording, but David was gone. Did the dash cam show anything? 10 hours of footage. To show David pulling over. Showed him sitting in his car for about 30 minutes, just watching the red light. Then the camera started glitching. Static. When it cleared, the driver's door was open, and David was gone. Never found his body. Never found any trace of him. I felt sick. So we just accept this? Let it keep taking people? What choice do we have? We follow the rules. We don't stop. We warn others. That's all we can do. Sarah stood up. I'm telling you this because Tom told me, and the officer before him told Tom. It's how we survive. We pass down the knowledge, and we hope it's enough. She left me sitting there with my cold coffee and my racing thoughts. The sun was fully up now. My shift was over, but I knew I wouldn't sleep. I'd be thinking about those red lights, about the figures standing beneath them, about the 17 empty cars, and about the fact that I'd seen the light twice already. One more time and I'd find out what happened to the people who didn't follow the rules. One more time and I might not make it back. I called in sick for my next 2 shifts. I needed time to think, to process what Sarah had told me, to decide if I could keep doing this job knowing what was out there. I spent those 2 days researching everything I could find. Old newspaper archives, missing persons databases, historical records about the highway construction. I was looking for answers, patterns, something that would explain what the red lights really were. The Trans-Canada Highway through Rogers Pass was completed in 1962. Before that, travelers had to take a longer route or risk the dangerous Illecillewaet River Trail. When they built the highway, they cut through pristine wilderness, blasted through rock, bridged rivers, changed the landscape forever. I found an article from 1963, a year after the highway opened. It mentioned several unexplained incidents, drivers reporting strange lights on the roadside, vehicles found abandoned with no explanation. The article treated it like a curiosity, a mystery of the new highway. But reading it now, I recognized the pattern. The red lights had been there from the beginning. I found more articles, scattered through the decades. Always the same story. Strange lights, missing drivers, no bodies ever found. Each article offered rational explanations. Driver error, wildlife encounters, harsh weather. But I knew better now. On my 3rd day off, I drove the route during daylight. I wanted to see kilometer marker 223 in the clear, see if there was anything that would explain the lights. any structure or equipment that could create the illusion. I found nothing, just highways and forests. A steep embankment on the right side where the figure always stood. Dense trees beyond that. No power lines. No towers. No reason for any light to be there. I parked on the shoulder. Got out. I walked to the exact spot where I'd seen the figure. The ground was undisturbed. No footprints. No evidence anyone had ever stood there. Just snow and frozen earth. I looked up, trying to see where the red light would hang. There was nothing above. Just empty air and tree branches about 5 meters up. No way to suspend anything. No way for a light to float 3 meters off the ground with nothing holding it. Standing there in broad daylight, it seemed impossible. A trick of tired eyes. A shared hallucination among stressed officers. But I'd seen it. Sarah had seen it. Tom had seen it. And 17 people had disappeared. I got back in my car. Sat there looking at the spot, trying to understand. Then I noticed something. The trees on the embankment. They were different from the others. Older. Twisted. Their branches bent at wrong angles. Like they'd been trying to grow away from something. And the snow on the ground where the figure stood. It was thinner there. Like something was keeping it from accumulating properly. Like heat was radiating from below. I took photos. Measurements. GPS coordinates. Then I drove back to Revelstoke. That evening I returned to work. Sarah was on shift too. She saw me come in. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like you haven't slept." "I'm fine. Just needed a couple days." She nodded. Didn't push. "You want to hear something that might help?" "What?" "There's someone you should talk to. An old highway engineer who worked on the original construction. I live in Golden now. Retired. His name is Frank Whitmore. He's in his 80s, but his mind is still sharp. And he knows things about this highway that never made it into official records." "What kind of things?" "The kind you need to hear from him directly." She wrote down an address. "Go see him tomorrow. During daylight. He doesn't like talking about this stuff after dark." I took the paper. "Sarah, why are you helping me? Why tell me about him?" She looked at me seriously. "Because you've seen the lights twice. Because you're asking questions. Because you're not just accepting the rules and moving on. That means you're either going to figure something out or you're going to get yourself killed. I prefer the first option." That night's patrol was tense. I drove my usual route. Watch for the red lights. Part of me hoped I wouldn't see them. Part of me hoped I would. Just to confirm I hadn't imagined everything. I didn't see them. The highway was empty and dark and normal. Just the way it should be. But I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Every time I passed kilometer marker 223, my skin crawled. Like something was there even though I couldn't see it. Like it was waiting for the right moment to appear. The next afternoon I drove to Golden. Found Frank Whitmore's address. A small house near the river. He answered on the second knock. Tall man. Thin. White hair. Sharp blue eyes that studied me carefully. "Your highway patrol," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir. My name is Rachel Dunbar. Sarah-chan suggested I talk to you." He nodded slowly. "Sarah's a good kid. Smart. Knows when to follow rules and when to ask questions." He stepped aside. "Come in. I've been expecting someone like you eventually." His living room was filled with books and old photographs. Pictures of highway construction. Men standing next to massive equipment. Mountains being carved away to make room for the road. He made tea. We sat down. He didn't wait for me to start. "You've seen the red lights," he said. "Yes. Twice, I'm guessing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here asking questions." "How did you know?" "Because that's when people start looking for answers." After the second sighting, after they realize it's real. He sipped his tea. Let me tell you something about that highway. Something we discovered during construction but never put in any report. I leaned forward. We were blasting through rock near what's now kilometer marker 223. Winter of 1961. We hit something we weren't expecting. A cave system. Deep. Old. We sent a team down to survey it. They were gone for 3 hours. When they came back up, they weren't the same. What do you mean? They were scared. Really scared. Said there were things down there. Lights that moved on their own. Spaces that seemed bigger on the inside than they should be. And sounds. Like singing or humming, but not quite either. My skin prickled. That description matched what Amanda had said about the tall ones in the forest. Different location, different phenomenon, but similar enough to make connections. What did they do? I asked. They sealed it, filled the whole thing with concrete. Thousands of tons. Buried whatever was down there. The project manager said it was for structural stability, but we all knew the truth. He wanted to make sure nothing could come up from below. But something did anyway. Frank nodded. The first incident was 3 months after the highway opened. Summer of 1962. The driver reported seeing a red light on the roadside. Said it looked like a traffic signal, but there wasn't supposed to be one there. He stopped to investigate. Never came back. They found his car the next day. Empty. No sign of struggle. No explanation. 17 people have disappeared in the same area over the last 15 years. I called in sick for my next 2 shifts. I needed time to think, to process what Sarah had told me, to decide if I could keep doing this job knowing what was out there. I spent those 2 days researching everything I could find. Old newspaper archives, missing persons databases, historical records about the highway construction. I was looking for answers, patterns, something that would explain what the red lights really were. The Trans-Canada Highway through Rogers Pass was completed in 1962. Before that, travelers had to take a longer route or risk the dangerous Illecillewaet River Trail. When they built the highway, they cut through pristine wilderness, blasted through rock, bridged rivers, changed the landscape forever. I found an article from 1963, a year after the highway opened. It mentions several unexplained incidents. Drivers reporting strange lights on the roadside. Vehicles found abandoned with no explanation. The article treated it like a curiosity, a mystery of the new highway. But reading it now, I recognize the pattern. The red lights had been there from the beginning. I found more articles, scattered through the decades. Always the same story. Strange lights. Missing drivers. No bodies ever found. Each article offered rational explanations. Driver error, wildlife encounters, harsh weather. But I knew better now. On my 3rd day off, I drove the route during daylight. I wanted to see kilometer marker 223 in the clear. See if there was anything that would explain the lights. Any structure or equipment that could create the illusion. I found nothing. Just highways and forests. A steep embankment on the right side where the figure always stood. Dense trees beyond that. No power lines. No towers. No reason for any light to be there. I parked on the shoulder. Got out. I walked to the exact spot where I'd seen the figure. The ground was undisturbed. No footprints. No evidence anyone had ever stood there. Just snow and frozen earth. I looked up, trying to see where the red light would hang. There was nothing above. Just empty air and tree branches about 5 meters up. No way to suspend anything. No way for a light to float 3 meters off the ground with nothing holding it. Standing there in broad daylight, it seemed impossible. A trick of tired eyes. A shared hallucination among stressed officers. But I'd seen it. Sarah had seen it. Tom had seen it. And 17 people had disappeared. I got back in my car, sat there looking at the spot, trying to understand. Then I noticed something. The trees on the embankment. They were different from the others. Older. Twisted. Their branches bent at wrong angles, like they'd been trying to grow away from something. And the snow on the ground where the figure stood, it was thinner there, like something was keeping it from accumulating properly, like heat was radiating from below. I took photos, measurements, GPS coordinates. Then I drove back to Revelstoke. That evening I returned to work. Sarah was on shift too. She saw me come in. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like you haven't slept." "I'm fine. Just needed a couple days." She nodded. Didn't push. "You want to hear something that might help?" "What?" "There's someone you should talk to. An old highway engineer who worked on the original construction. I live in Golden now. Retired. His name is Frank Whitmore. He's in his 80s, but his mind is still sharp. And he knows things about this highway that never made it into official records." "What kind of things?" "The kind you need to hear from him directly." She wrote down an address. "Go see him tomorrow. During daylight. He doesn't like talking about this stuff after dark." I took the paper. "Sarah, why are you helping me? Why tell me about him?" She looked at me seriously. "Because you've seen the lights twice. Because you're asking questions. Because you're not just accepting the rules and moving on. That means you're either going to figure something out or you're going to get yourself killed." I'd prefer the first option. That night's patrol was tense. I drove my usual route. Watch for the red lights. Part of me hoped I wouldn't see them. Part of me hoped I would. Just to confirm I hadn't imagined everything. I didn't see them. The highway was empty and dark and normal. Just the way it should be. But I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Every time I passed kilometer marker 223, my skin crawled. Like something was there even though I couldn't see it. Like it was waiting for the right moment to appear. The next afternoon I drove to Golden. Found Frank Whitmore's address. A small house near the river. He answered on the second knock. Tall man. Thin. White hair. Sharp blue eyes that studied me carefully. "Your highway patrol," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir. My name is Rachel Dunbar. Sarah Chun suggested I talk to you." He nodded slowly. "Sarah's a good kid. Smart. Knows when to follow rules and when to ask questions." He stepped aside. "Come in. I've been expecting someone like you eventually." His living room was filled with books and old photographs. Pictures of highway construction. Men standing next to massive equipment. Mountains being carved away to make room for the road. He made tea. We sat down. He didn't wait for me to start. "You've seen the red lights," he said. "Yes. Twice, I'm guessing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here asking questions." "How did you know?" "Because that's when people start looking for answers. After the second sighting. After they realize it's real." He sipped his tea. "Let me tell you something about that highway. Something we discovered during construction but never put in any report." I leaned forward. "We were blasting through rock near what's now kilometer marker 223. Winter of 1961. We hit something we weren't expecting. A cave system. Deep. Old. We sent a team down to survey it. They were gone for 3 hours. When they came back up, they weren't the same." "What do you mean?" "They were scared. Really scared. Said there were things down there. Lights that moved on their own. Spaces that seemed bigger on the inside than they should be. And sounds. Like singing or humming but not quite either." My skin prickled. That description matched what Amanda had said about the tall ones in the forest. Different location. Different phenomenon. but similar enough to make connections. What did they do? I asked. They sealed it. Filled the whole thing with concrete. Thousands of tons. Buried whatever was down there. The project manager said it was for structural stability, but we all knew the truth. He wanted to make sure nothing could come up from below. But something did anyway. Frank nodded. The first incident was 3 months after the highway opened. Summer of 1962. The driver reported seeing a red light on the roadside. Said it looked like a traffic signal, but there wasn't supposed to be one there. He stopped to investigate. Never came back. They found his car the next day. Empty. No sign of struggle. No explanation. 17 people have disappeared in the same area over the last 15 years. At least 17. Those are just the ones where vehicles were found. How many others might have vanished completely? Car and all? No evidence left behind. I hadn't thought of that. The number could be much higher. What are they? I asked. The things under the red lights? Frank was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. None of us ever knew. But we had theories. Some thought they were some kind of underground species we disturbed. Others thought they were something that existed here long before humans. And a few thought they were something that came from somewhere else entirely. Through the caves. Through spaces we don't understand. Why red lights? Why traffic signals? Because they're learning. Adapting. In the 60s, they just appeared as strange lights. Glowing orbs. But drivers didn't stop for random lights. So the lights evolved. Started mimicking things we recognize. Things we're programmed to respond to. Red traffic signals. Emergency flashers. Now I hear some officers report seeing what looks like police cruisers with their lights on. The mimicry is getting better. How do we stop them? You don't. You can't. They were here first. We invaded their territory. All we can do is learn to coexist. Follow the rules. Don't stop. Don't engage. Don't give them what they want. What do they want? Frank looked at me with those sharp blue eyes. The same thing any predator wants. To feed. To survive. They lure prey with lights. The prey stops. The prey disappears. It's that simple. We just happen to be the prey. There has to be something we can do. Some way to fight back. Why? So we can feel like we're in control? We're not. We're never in control out there. The mountains don't care about us. The weather doesn't care. And these things definitely don't care. They just exist. They hunt. They feed. That's nature. Red in tooth and claw. Just because it's something we don't understand doesn't make it any less natural. I sat back, feeling frustrated. So we just accept it? Let people keep disappearing? No. You follow the rules. You teach others to follow the rules. You make sure every officer knows what to watch for and what to avoid. That's how you save lives. Not by fighting something you can't even properly see, but by respecting it, avoiding it, surviving it. He stood up. I walked to a bookshelf, pulled out a folder. I've kept records over the years. Every incident I could find, every pattern I could identify, times of year when sightings increase, weather conditions that seem to trigger appearances, locations beyond kilometer 223 where similar phenomena have been reported. He handed me the folder. It was thick. Decades of documentation. Most people who see the lights once never see them again, Frank said. They drive past. They survive. They forget. But you've seen them twice. That means you're on their radar now. They've noticed you. And if you see them a third time, you need to understand something very important. What? The third time isn't random. It's intentional. They're choosing to show themselves to you specifically. They're testing you. seeing if you'll break the rules, seeing if you'll stop. And if you do, you'll learn what happened to all those others. You'll become another empty car, another unsolved mystery, another name in my folder. He walked me to the door. Follow the rules, Rachel. All of them. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to solve the mystery. Just drive past. Keep yourself safe. That's the only victory you can have out there. I drove back to Revelstoke with Frank's folder on the passenger seat. The sun was setting. The shadows were getting long. And somewhere out there on the highway, the red lights were probably starting to appear. I had 3 rules now. Don't stop for the red lights. Don't make eye contact with what's underneath. Don't pass the same light 3 times in one shift. But as I drove, I realized there was an unwritten 4th rule that Frank and Sarah had both implied. Don't try to understand. Don't dig too deep. Don't ask too many questions. Because the more you learned, the more danger you were in. Knowledge was a beacon. And these things were drawn to people who noticed them, who acknowledged their existence. I'd crossed that line already. I'd seen them twice. I'd asked questions. I researched. Now I just had to hope that would be enough. That I could follow the rules. That I could resist the urge to stop the next time I saw a red light glowing in the darkness. But deep down I knew the truth. It was only a matter of time before I saw it again. Before I faced that 3rd encounter. And when that moment came, I'd have to choose. Follow the rules and stay safe. Or break them and discover what really happens to the people who stop. I didn't see the red lights for 2 weeks. My patrol shifts were normal. Quiet winter nights. A few speeders. 1 jackknife at transport that needed clearing. Nothing unusual. Nothing that made my skin crawl. But I am different now. Hyper-aware. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every distant light made my heart race. I caught myself gripping the steering wheel too tight, checking my mirrors too often. The highway didn't feel safe anymore. Sarah noticed. "You're wound too tight," she said one night in the break room. "You need to relax or you'll burn out." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You're waiting for it. That's worse than seeing it. The anticipation will destroy you faster than the actual encounter." She was right. I was waiting, dreading. Every shift felt like walking towards something inevitable. Then it happened. Late January, coldest night of the year. The temperature had dropped to -30. The kind of cold that makes your breath freeze. That makes tires crack. That kills exposed skin in minutes. I was driving eastbound near Golden. About 2 a.m. The highway was completely empty. No traffic. No lights except my headlights cutting through the darkness. Snow was falling lightly. Everything looked peaceful. Then I saw it ahead. Red light. Right shoulder. Same location as always. My chest tightened. This was the 3rd time. 3 sightings. The dangerous number. The one Sarah had warned about. I kept my speed steady. Didn't slow down. Didn't brake. But my eyes were locked on that light. I couldn't look away. Against all instinct, I was staring directly at it. As I got closer, I could see the figure underneath. But this time it was different. It wasn't standing still. It was moving. Slowly. Deliberately. Like it was waiting for something specific. Then I realized. It was facing my direction. Looking right at my approaching vehicle. Like it knew I was coming. Like it had been expecting me. I was 50 meters away. 40. 30. The figure took a step forward. Onto the highway. Into my lane. I had seconds to decide. Swerve and risk losing control on the icy road. Or keep straight and drive through where it stood. Every instinct screamed to swerve. But I remembered Frank's words. Don't engage. Don't give them what they want. I kept straight. Maintained speed. Aimed directly at where the figure stood. 20 meters. 10. 5. It didn't move. Just stood there in my lane, under the red light, waiting. I braced for impact, for the thud of hitting something solid, for whatever horror would come next. But there was nothing. My car passed right through the space where the figure stood. No impact, no resistance, like driving through smoke. In my rearview mirror, I saw the red light still glowing. The figure was back on the shoulder, exactly where it had been before, like nothing had happened. My hands were shaking. My heart was hammering. But I'd done it. I'd passed the third encounter. I'd followed the rules. I drove for another 5 kilometers before I had to pull over. Grabbed my radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need to report." I stopped. What could I report? That I'd driven through a ghost? That I'd seen something impossible? Never mind. False alarm. Copy that, Unit 12. I sat there in my patrol car, engine running, heat blasting, trying to calm down, trying to process what had just happened. The figure had been solid looking, real, but my car had passed right through it, like it wasn't fully in our world, like it existed somewhere between real and not real. That's when I noticed something. My dash cam. The recording light was off. The camera had shut down. I tried to restart it. Nothing. Completely dead. Like something had drained all its power. I checked my laptop. Also dead. Radio still worked. The lights still worked. But every recording device in my car had been disabled. I didn't want to be documented. Didn't want evidence of its existence. And it was smart enough to target the specific systems that could capture proof. I restarted my equipment. Everything came back online. But the recordings from the past 10 minutes were gone. Corrupted files. Unrecoverable data. I continued my patrol. Made it through the rest of the shift without incident. But I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. The figure had stepped into my path. Deliberately. Testing me. Seeing if I'd swerve. If I'd stop. If I'd break the rules. And when I hadn't, when I'd driven straight through it, it had simply returned to waiting. Like I'd passed some kind of test. Back at the detachment, I found Sarah. Told her everything. She listened quietly. Then nodded. You did the right thing. You followed the rules. You survived the third encounter. What does that mean? Am I safe now? She hesitated. I don't know. Most officers never make it to a third sighting. They transfer out after 2. Tom did. Others did. You're one of the few who stayed and faced it 3 times. Has anyone else done that? David Kwan, the officer I told you about. He saw it 3 times. Then he tried to investigate, tried to capture evidence, and he disappeared. But I didn't investigate. I drove past. I followed the rules. I know, that might be enough. Or it might not. We're in uncharted territory now. Over the next week, I noticed changes. Small things at first. My car's electronics would glitch randomly. The radio would crackle with static when I passed certain areas. My dash cam would shut off for no reason and restart on its own. And I started seeing the red lights more frequently. Not just at kilometer 223. Other locations. Different spots along my route. Always on the right shoulder. Always with the figure underneath. But now they appear almost every shift. Sarah noticed too. They're tracking you. Watching you. You've become interesting to them. What do I do? Follow the rules. Don't stop. Don't engage. Eventually they'll lose interest. Hopefully. But I wasn't sure they would lose interest. I'd seen them 3 times. I'd driven through one of them. I'd acknowledged their existence in a way most people never did. And now they were showing themselves more often. Like they wanted me to see them. like they were trying to communicate something. One night I counted 6 different red lights during a single shift. 6 locations. 6 figures. All watching me drive past. All standing perfectly still except for turning their heads to follow my car as I went by. Felt like being hunted. Like being marked. Like I'd crossed some invisible line and now I couldn't go back to not knowing. To not see. I checked Frank's folder. Found notes about an officer from the 1980s. Similar pattern. Multiple sightings. Increasing frequency. The notes ended with officer transferred to Vancouver. Refused to work highways again. Retired early. Another entry from the 1990s. Same pattern. That officer had quit the RCMP entirely. Moved to Ontario. Never explained why. I was following the same trajectory. See the lights once or twice you could dismiss it. 3 times you had to acknowledge it was real. More than 3 you started to break down. I started to question everything. I started to understand that the highway wasn't really ours. We were just using something that belonged to them first. I made it through January. Then February. The lights appeared almost every shift now. Sometimes multiple times per night. But I never stopped. Never slowed down. Never gave them what they wanted. Until the night everything changed. It was late February. Bitter cold. I was approaching kilometer 223. The original location. Where I'd first seen them. And there it was. Red light. Figure underneath. Same as always. But this time there was something else. A car. Parked on the shoulder. Right next to where the figure stood. Hazard lights flashing. Someone had stopped. I grabbed my radio. Dispatch, I have a vehicle on the right shoulder near kilometer 223. Hazards on. I'm pulling over to assist. Copy that, Unit 12. Be careful out there. I slowed down. Put on my flashers. Started to pull over. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong. That this was exactly what I shouldn't do. But someone needed help. That was my job. To help people in trouble. I got within 20 meters of the car. Close enough to see it was a sedan. Alberta plates. Covered in road salt and snow. And through the driver's window I could see someone sitting inside. Then I saw the red light. It was directly above the car. Hanging in the air maybe 2 meters over the roof. Like it was claiming the vehicle. Marking it. And the figure wasn't on the shoulder anymore. It was standing next to the driver's door. Facing the window. Looking in at whoever was inside. I stopped my patrol car. Didn't pull all the way over. Left it positioned in the driving lane with my lights on. Creating a barrier between me and whatever was happening ahead. The person in the car wasn't moving. Just sitting there. Hands on the wheel. Staring straight ahead. Like they were frozen. Like they couldn't move even if they wanted to. I reached for my radio. My hand was shaking. Dispatch, I need backup at this location. Now. And I need you to run these plates. I read off the numbers. Copy. Running them now. Backup is 15 minutes out. 15 minutes. That was too long. Whatever was happening to that person might be over in 15 minutes. They might disappear like the others. Another empty car. Another unsolved mystery. But the rules said don't stop. Don't engage. And I'd already broken the first rule by pulling over. If I got out of my car, I'd be breaking another unwritten rule. I'd be putting myself in direct contact with them. The figure turned. Slowly. Deliberately. And looked at me. Even from 20 meters away, even though I couldn't see its face clearly, I felt the weight of that gaze. Cold. Ancient. Hungry. It took a step toward my car. Then another. Moving slowly. Like it had all the time in the world. Like it knew I was trapped by my own sense of duty. Dispatch, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What's the status on those plates? Registered to Patricia Hammond, Calgary address. No wants or warrants. The vehicle was reported stolen 3 hours ago from a rest stop near Lake Louise. Stolen. That changed things. Maybe there was no one in the car. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe the figure had learned to use stolen vehicles as bait. But I could see someone in the driver's seat. Could see their silhouette. Unless that was part of the illusion. Part of the lure. The figure was 10 meters away now. Close enough that I should be able to see details. But I couldn't. Its form was blurred. Wrong. Like my eyes couldn't quite focus on it. Like it existed at a frequency my brain couldn't process. I had to decide. Stay in my car and wait for backup. Or try to help whoever was in that vehicle. Break the rules to potentially save a life. Or follow the rules and possibly watch someone disappear. The figure stopped. 5 meters from my car. Standing in the middle of the highway. Under the red light that had somehow moved to hover directly above it. And then it did something I'd never seen before. Spoke. Not with words. Not with sound. But directly into my head. A voice that wasn't a voice. Cold. Empty. Curious. You're different. You see us. You know. But you don't stop. Why? I gripped the steering wheel. Didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because acknowledging it would be breaking another rule. Engaging with it. Others stop. Others help. You don't. Are you afraid? Or wise? The voice was making my head hurt. Like pressure building behind my eyes. Like something was trying to push its way into my thoughts. Drive away. Or stay. Choose. It was giving me an out. Permission to leave. But I knew it was a test. If I left, someone might die. If I stayed, I might die instead. I looked at the car ahead. The person inside still hadn't moved. Behind me, the highway was empty. Backup was still 10 minutes away. I was alone with this thing. This creature that used our lights and our roads and our instincts against us. I made my choice. I grabbed my spotlight, aimed it directly at the figure, turned it on at full brightness. The light hit it square in the center, and for one brief moment I saw it clearly, saw what it really looked like under all the blur and distortion. It wasn't human, wasn't even close. The proportions were wrong. The angles were wrong. It was like someone had tried to make a human form without understanding how humans actually work. Too many joints. Too few features. Skin that looked like shadow made it solid. It recoiled from the spotlight. Stepped back. The red light above it flickered. And in that moment of distraction, the person in the car ahead moved. Their door opened. They stumbled out onto the highway. Started running toward my vehicle. Young woman, maybe 25, jacket torn, face pale, eyes wide with terror. Drive, she screamed. Get us out of here. She reached my car, yanked open the passenger door, threw herself inside. Go now. I hit the gas, didn't look back, didn't check my mirrors, just drove. Put distance between us and that thing standing in the highway. In my rearview mirror, I saw the red light wink out. Saw the figure disappear. Like it had never been there at all. The woman was crying, shaking, covered in sweat despite the freezing temperature. It's okay, I said. You're safe now. What happened? How long were you stopped? She looked at me with haunted eyes. I don't know. Hours? Days? I can't remember. I was driving. Saw the red light. I thought it was a traffic signal. When I stopped, everything went wrong. Time stopped working. And that thing, it just stood there, watching, waiting. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. Couldn't do anything except sit there and stare at it. You're safe now, I repeated. Not sure if I believed it. Not sure if any of us were ever really safe on this highway. Backup arrived 5 minutes later. 2 other patrol cars. They secured the scene, called for a tow truck for the abandoned vehicle, took the woman's statement. Her story matched what I'd seen. She'd stopped for what looked like a red traffic signal, realized too late there shouldn't be one there. Tried to drive away, but her car wouldn't start. Then the figure appeared, and time had stopped making sense. She was lucky. I'd arrived before it took her completely, before she became another missing person, another unsolved case. But I knew the truth. I'd broken the rules. I'd stopped. I'm engaged. I'd used light to drive it away, and now it knew I was willing to fight back. That changed everything. The game had new rules now, and I wasn't sure I knew what they were. I was put on administrative leave the next day. Standard procedure after an unusual incident. They wanted me to see a counselor, get evaluated, make sure I was fit for duty. The woman I'd rescued, Patricia Hammond, was in the hospital. Hypothermia, dehydration, severe psychological distress. She kept talking about the red light, about lost time, about the figure that watched her. The doctors labeled it trauma-induced psychosis, gave her medication, said she'd be fine eventually. But I saw her eyes when they brought her in. She'd seen the truth, just like I had. And that kind of knowledge doesn't go away with medication. I spent 3 days at home. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure standing in my spotlight beam. Saw its impossible form. It's wrong. The way it had recoiled from the light like something burned. Sarah called on the second day. How are you holding up? I broke the rules. I stopped. You saved someone's life. That matters too. But now it knows. It knows I'll stop. It knows I'll try to help. She was quiet for a moment. Frank wants to see you. Says it's important. Can you drive to Golden tomorrow? I met Frank at his house the next afternoon. He looked older than before. More tired. Like he'd been carrying a heavy weight for too long. I heard what you did, he said. Using the spotlight. That was clever. And dangerous. It worked. The light drove it back. This time. But you've shown them something new. Show them you're willing to fight. That makes you different from all the others who just drove past. He sat down heavily. They'll remember you now. Single you out. Test you differently. What should I do? You have 2 choices. Transfer out. Leave this highway behind. Go somewhere they aren't. Or stay and accept what comes next. What comes next? Frank pulled out an old photograph, black and white, from the 1960s. It showed a group of men standing near construction equipment. Highway work crew. This was my team. The ones who went down into the caves we found. The ones who came back changed. He pointed to one man in the photo. This is Robert Chen. Not the same Robert you know. His grandfather. He was on my crew. He went into the caves, saw what was down there, and when he came back up, he spent the rest of his life warning people, teaching his family, making sure the knowledge passed down. Your Robert learned about the red lights from his grandfather? A whole generation of highway workers learned. We passed it down quietly, unofficially, because we knew these things were real and we knew they'd never go away. Frank set down the photo. But there's something else. Something I didn't tell you before. What? The caves weren't empty when we found them. There were signs of previous human presence. Old markings on the walls. Warnings written in languages we couldn't identify. Like other people had discovered these things hundreds or thousands of years ago. And they tried to warn us too. My skin crawled. What were they warning about? The same thing I'm warning you about. Don't engage. Don't interact. Don't let them know you see them. Because once you do, once you acknowledge them, you become part of their world. And they become part of yours. The boundary breaks down. And then, he trailed off. Then what? Then they can reach you anywhere. Not just on the highway. Not just at night. They know where you are. What you fear. What you love. And they use it. I thought about my apartment. My quiet life off duty. The idea that these things could follow me home was terrifying. How do I stop it? You can't. All you can do is maintain boundaries. Don't stop. Don't engage. Don't let them further into your world. The spotlight trick was smart, but it was also an escalation. You showed them you're aware. You showed them you can fight back. Now they'll be more interested in you than ever. I went back to work after my leave ended. Different route assignment. They put me on the western section. Away from kilometer 223. Away from the problem area. My supervisor said it was temporary. Until I readjusted. But I knew the truth. They were scared. Scared I'd seen something real. Scared I'd talk. Scared I'd make them acknowledge what they'd all been ignoring for decades. The western route was quieter. Fewer sightings. But they still happened. Different locations now. The red lights were spreading. Or maybe they'd always been there and I just hadn't noticed before. Once you see them everywhere. 2 weeks into my new assignment, I was driving through a snowstorm. Visibility is almost zero. I came around a curve and there it was. Red light. Right in the middle of the road. Not on the shoulder. In my lane. Blocking the way. I had no time to react. No time to swerve. I hit the brakes. I felt the car start to slide on the ice. Felt control slipping away. The light was getting closer. 20 meters. 10. 5. I closed my eyes. Waited for impact. For whatever came next. But there was nothing. I opened my eyes. The light was gone. My car had stopped in the middle of the highway. The engine is still running. But everything else was silent. The storm had stopped. The wind had died. Even the radio was quiet. I looked around. The forest on both sides of the highway looked different. Wrong. The trees were too close. Too thick. Like the forest had grown around me while I wasn't looking. Then I saw movement. Multiple figures. Standing between the trees. All watching my car. All perfectly still. At least a dozen of them. Maybe more. All with that same wrong shape. That same impossible geometry. This was a trap. They'd created a false red light. Made me stop. Brought me to wherever they really lived. The boundary had broken. I was in their world now. My radio crackled. Static. Then a voice. Not dispatch. Not human. The same voice I'd heard before. Inside my head and outside it at the same time. You stopped. I grabbed the radio. Hit the transmit button. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You chose to break. You chose to try to avoid us. But you can't avoid us anymore. The figures started moving. Slowly. Closing in on my car from all sides. Getting closer. Close enough now that I could see details I didn't want to see. Faces that weren't quite faces. Limbs that bent at wrong angles. What do you want? I asked. To understand. You see us. You know us. But you resist us. Why? Because I'm not food. Because I'm not yours to take. Everything on this road is ours. This was our territory first. You built your highway through our home. You bring us offerings. Pray that stops when we show them red. Pray that trust signals. That follows the rules. I follow different rules. Yes, that's why you're interested. That's why we want to understand you. To know how you resist. The figures were close now, surrounding my car, pressed up against the windows. I couldn't see out anymore, just their forms, their shadows, their wrongness. I did the only thing I could think of. I turned on every light in my car. Interior lights, headlights, spotlight, everything. Made my vehicle into a beacon of brightness in their dark world. They recoiled, stepped back, but it didn't disappear. The light hurt them but didn't destroy them, didn't send them away. Clever, the voice said. But light only works in your world. Here in our space, light means nothing. Then send me back. Let me go. Why would we do that? You're the first one who's fought back. The first one who's made this interesting. The others just disappeared. I just gave up. Just let us take them. But you resist. You fight. You survive. That's rare. That's valuable. I realized what it was saying. They didn't want to kill me. They wanted to study me, learn from me, figure out how I'd resisted when so many others hadn't. If I'm valuable, then we can make a deal. The voice laughed. Not human laughter. Something else. Deals. How very human. What could you possibly offer us? Information. I'll tell you how I resist. How I know your patterns. How I follow rules that keep me safe. In exchange, you let me go. You leave me alone. No more tests. No more traps. Silence. The figures stayed pressed against my car but didn't move closer. They were considering it. Actually considering it. Tell us, the voice finally said. How do you resist? 'Cause I respect you. I don't pretend you're not real. I don't dismiss you as impossible. I acknowledge you exist and I give you space. I don't stop because I know you're hunting. And I don't hunt you back. We coexist. We stay separate. That's the deal humans should have made when we first built this highway. Respect and distance. More silence. Longer this time. Then the figures began to move back. Slowly, creating space around my car. Interesting, the voice said. Most humans pretend we don't exist. Or they try to prove we exist. But you simply acknowledge and avoid it. That's wisdom. That's survival. So we have a deal. Perhaps. But deals require terms. Here are ours. You may continue on this highway. You may survive. But you must warn others. You must teach them respect and distance. You must maintain the boundary between your world and ours. If you do this, we will let you pass. If you don't, next time you stop, you won't leave. Agreed. The figures faded. The forest pulled back. The storm started again. My radio returned to normal. And I was back on the regular highway. Like nothing had happened. But everything had changed. I'd met them. I spoke with them. Made a deal with them. I was bound now. Connected. Part of their world in a way I could never undo. I told Sarah everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded slowly. You made it back. That's more than most could say. But I'm marked now. Connected to them. I can feel it. Like they're always watching. Always aware of me. That's the price of knowledge. Of seeing what others don't see. Frank has that feeling. Tom had it. Everyone who truly understands what's out there carries that weight. How do you deal with it? By following the rules. By maintaining boundaries. By teaching others. That's what the voice told you to do, right? Warn others. Maintain the boundary. I started writing everything down. Every rule. Every encounter. Every detail. Creating the documentation that would help the next person. The next officer who started seeing the red lights. The next person who needed to understand without having to go through what I went through. The rules were simple but absolute. Never stop for red lights that appear where no signal should be. Never make eye contact with what stands beneath them. Never pass the same light 3 times in one shift. If you must stop, keep your lights on. All of them. Respect their territory. Acknowledge their existence. Maintain distance. I shared the document with Sarah, with Frank, with every officer I trusted. Slowly, quietly, the information spread. A new generation learning the old warnings. Learning to coexist with something we disturbed when we built our highway through their world. 3 months later, I was still on highway patrol. Still driving the Trans-Canada. Still seeing the red lights occasionally. But now when I passed them, I nodded slightly. Acknowledgement. Respect. And they let me pass without incident. Other officers reported similar experiences. The lights were still there. Still testing, still watching, but those who knew the rules survived. Those who respected the boundary were allowed to pass. Patricia Hammond recovered. Mostly. She moved back to Calgary, got a different job, refused to drive the Trans-Canada ever again. But she was alive. That was something. I still work the highway, still patrol the mountains. Still watch for drivers who need help. But now I carry an extra spotlight, extra flares, extra light sources, just in case I need to fight back again, just in case the deal breaks down. Because I know the truth now. We're not alone out here. We never were. The highway we built cut through something older, something that was here first. And it's still here, still watching. Still waiting for people who don't know the rules. Late at night, when the highway is empty and the mountains are silent, I sometimes see them standing on the shoulders. Multiple lights, multiple figures, all watching the road, all waiting for the next person to stop. But I won't stop. I never stop. I just drove past. Give a small nod of acknowledgement, and keep moving. Because that's the deal. Respect and distance. Coexistence. And as long as I maintain that boundary, they let me live. If you ever drive the Trans-Canada Highway late at night, watch for the red lights. The ones that appear where no signals should be. The ones with figures standing underneath. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Don't try to investigate. Just keep driving. Acknowledge them if you must. Give them respect. But never ever stop. Because they're still there. Still waiting. Still watching for people who don't know the rules. And if you stop, if you break the boundary, you'll learn what happened to all the others. You'll become another empty car. Another mystery. Another name in a file somewhere. The highway belongs to them. We're just borrowing it. And as long as we remember that, as long as we show respect, they'll let us pass. But forget that. Stop for the red lights. And you'll discover why 17 isn't the real number. Why is the actual count of missing people is much, much higher. They're patient. They're ancient. They were here before us. And they'll be here long after we're gone. So remember the rules. Maintain the boundary. And whatever you do, never stop for the red lights. Because they're not traffic signals. They're bait. And we're the prey they're hunting.